But as technology came and started to advance the usage of the phone and telecommunications, now you don't have to remember numbers anymore. Everything is in your phone, right? But this is somebody that's changing the game. And guess what you doing as they change the game? You trying to keep up, following, spending money to stay updated on the game. Now, instead of just having a regular dial-up, right, you got to get you an iPhone 15, 25, whatever number they at right now, right, just to stay in the game. And guess what? What you got right now in your hand, what I'm filming myself on right now, it's probably about 15, 20 years old in technology. And we got old information rocking it like it's new and it's the best thing ever, fronting and stunting on everybody, talk about, this is what it is when you're an Android user as opposed to a iPhone user, right? And we think we doing something. But the people who changed the game put it in our hands for a fee, and they say, man, listen, only if you knew what we was using right now. Yeah. Are you the ruler or the doula?
Tap and hit the snooze in school. Wake up, extra down in the pillow, man, extra drool. Wake up. 1, 2, Freddy's coming for you. You should wake up.
Yeah, it's your host with the most, Ray Bay, back with another one, Arts, Beats, and Culture. Whether you at work or sitting on the sofa, peep game, take notes. Are you the doula or the ruler? Right? Are you the doula or the ruler? Doula, servant. Ruler, the master. Are you the master of your destiny? Or the servant of someone else's? Huh? Peep game. Are you the one that's ruling? Or are you the one that's being ruled? The master or the servant? Which one? See, it's important that we understand what role you play in society because it determines your overall outcome. You know what I'm saying? So sometimes we think that because we may be big and bad in this particular position, right? And because you are big and bad there, but if somebody else there is bigger and badder than you, then you ain't really that big and bad. So are you the ruler or the one that's being ruled? Right? See, the one that's being ruled, he's always playing catch up, trying to figure the game out. Right? Always a few steps behind, making mistakes, errors, carrying a pencil and erase everywhere he go, trying to correct his mistakes. Right? See, but the one that's the ruler, he's the one that understands the game because 9 times out of 10, he made the rules to the game. And when you make the rules to the game, you know the outcome of the game before it's even played. Right? So when you're the doula, you try to figure out the rules. How am I going to win? Right? And you put money up on the table, and every time you turn around, your money is being swiped by the one who made the rules. Now, who's qualified to make the rules? The ruler. The one who is in power has the ability to determine his own destiny, his own fortune. Right? So, let's understand this. The responsibility of a ruler is to make the rules, to determine the game. It's like being the architect of something, of a building, of the matrix, right? Of this fabricated world that we live in. This plane of things made manifest. This physical, right? So when you know the rules to the game, right, of this world that we live in, this fantasy, this illusion, this matrix, this monopoly game that we all live in, you finagle the rules, you know what I mean? Make it always agreeable to your purpose, you know. So when it looks like you're losing, in all reality, you're really winning. Because at any given time, you can say, do. Change the game. Right? So when you're able to change the game, how could you lose? But it's like all of the fools that find themselves up in the casino, right? Throwing their money on the crap table. And now the mortgage ain't getting paid. Right? And it's the third time, and your girl know, oh man, I done hooked up with a loser. Not the ruler, but the loser. The Duulah, the son Duulah. You know what I'm saying? And always trying to play catch up. And she like, man, listen, the mortgage ain't getting paid. You know what I mean? Car note is crazy. And they about to get ready to snatch the whip up, right? So now she got to jump on the bus again to go to work because you failed to do what you supposed to do, trying to play catch up in the game. And while she on her way to work, guess who she bumped to at the bus stop? Somebody else that's not trying to play the game that you playing. They're playing their own game, a game that they made up. And they say, hey, I'm a game changer. I changed the game. Matter of fact, I made the game. And they get to have whatever they want, you know? So when you're able to change the game, you're able to make the game. And when we make the game, it all begins where? With a thought. So as man thinketh, so shall it be. And that's what the game is. Whatever the ruler decides it to be. And the thought, right, it teams up with all the things in the universe, right? With the ethers, the elements, the neutrons, protons, electrons, right? The molecules, right? And they all come together in this universe. And it conspires and make things a reality. It makes things manifest, vibrates, then it takes shape, right? So when it vibrates and it takes shape, and that was right before your eyes, right? The sentinels that watch for thee, right? And when you see these things and it's right before your face, and you say, all right, I gotta give it a name. And when you give something a name, it has a meaning to follow it. And when it has a meaning to follow it, here comes its purpose, its functionality, its reason for existence, right? And only the ruler can do such a thing. Not the doula, not the one that's being ruled. The one that's being ruled is always trying to figure out the definition of something, right? But when you the master, you're like, man, I'm the one who wrote the book. You can figure out the definition, right? But you can't change the definition because you don't have the power to change the game. And in order to have the power to change the game, right, you have to change the way you think. You have to come to the conclusion as to who you are. What purpose do you serve? Right? And we figure out what purpose you serve. What you was called to earth to do. Right? When you have that clear conception of what you were called to do, that changes everything. And now the universe is like, huh? What? What you say? Oh, alright. The team and thoughts. Everything come together. You know what I mean? And they start working together and trying to figure this thing out for you. They said, alright, we hear his thoughts. Whatever your thoughts are, the universe is listening, like, alright, this is what he's saying. And they start to manipulate, fabricate, right? Putting things into place for you. It's to serve you. See, the ruler knows that everything here in this existence is under his subjugation. It's under his rulership. Man was made to be the Lord of the plane of things made flesh. The plane of soul. Everything bends to your imagination. Man was made in the image and after the likeness of God Allah. And if you don't know your image, right, which is the arm, the leg, the arm, and the head, and then we forced to look up in the sky for that which does not exist to do what we supposed to do for ourselves, right? So back to being the ruler. Being the ruler comes from knowing who you are, right? And you say, who am I? And you look back to those who came before you to see who they were. You say, I came out of my mom's. My father put me in her, and I came out of her, right? And then you start to measure who they were. Am I them? Right? You start to measure your siblings, right? Those who came before them, aunts and uncles, relatives, and you measure their accomplishments. And you say, hey, are they the ones that I want to be like? And if they have not reached the ruler state of mind, then you need to pass them. The universe, Allah, for sending us these great examples over and over and over again, where we see the great minds like Noble Duulah, the prophet, right? Great minds like our dearly beloved Harbinger, Marcus Garvey. Great minds like Elijah Muhammad. Great minds like Stokely Carmichael, like Huey P. Newton, like Malcolm, like the father, Clarence the 13X, right? And we see all of these great individuals, and we see their accomplishments, what they brought to this plane of things made manifest, right? And then we think about these great minds like Jesus, whether you believe in him or not, right? Jesus is more real than most people you even imagine in your real life. In your life. Let me not say in your real life, but in your life, right? Great minds like, all those that came and paved the way for us today. And you say, all right, this is what they left. I see the game that they laid. Now let me add on, right? Or you could go ahead and fabricate your own game, right? You make your own matrix. Because man was made in the image and after the likeness of God Allah, right? So as man thinketh, so shall it be. And if you are in a condition that is unfavorable to you, guess whose fault that is? We ain't in the game of blaming others for where we at, right? Because excuses is only for two people, babies and women, right? And we not in the business of making excuses for the shortcomings. So, if you a man, you have to be the man and the God man, right? upright, fearless, independent, overcoming the negative to the positive, always on the elevation, right? Always on the escalator. Keep rising to the top, Dougie Fresh on them, right? All the time. Always elevating the way you think. Prophet Noble Drew Ali said that the fool is obstinate. He know all things but his own ignorance. But then he give us the polarity, right? The polarity of the fool, which is the wise man. And he said the wise man doubteth often, right? He said the wise man changeth his mind. He doubteth often. Why? Because he understands and knows that this plane of things made manifest is forever changing. So as man thinketh right now, tomorrow with a little bit more enlightenment, he gonna be thinking differently. Even more elevated. It says man's God today, tomorrow is not his God. Why? Because man's ideals is his God. Right? And as man unfolds, so does his God. His God unfolds like the bud, the flower, right? And then you see the petals and all the beautiful, the fruit, right? Everything that manifests from the thought. But when you don't unfold, right? You start to retract, right? Retard, go back, decrease, descend, right? Fall instead of rising. So, it's important that the original man have an understanding of who he is. Because when you lack the knowledge of who you are, you put yourself in a position for somebody who understands the game and then gives you a name. Right? And when he gives you a name, here comes a meaning with the name. A definition. And with the definition comes what? A purpose. A function. Right? So when you allow somebody to name you, you're giving them the power over who you are and what your destiny is. So we don't accept no names that didn't come from the foundation. Right? We don't accept no names that come from those who may not be a friend. You know what I mean? You accept the names from your enemies and you give them a power that says that you are not who you really are. And who are you really? Right? And you look at the flesh and you think this is what you are, right? You know what I mean? But that's a finite. That's a limited. Right? This right here comes and goes. Anything that has a beginning has an ending. Right? It's not everlasting. But the thought, right? The thought is infinite. Right? This is the only thing that is subjected to the eternal. Especially when the thought is a righteous thought. You know what I mean? So you might have thoughts that are low thoughts. And they vibrate at a very low level. They don't produce much. But then you have a thought that's high, right? On the speed of light. Then just like lightning. Striking. Bringing brightness. So, we understand that the sun has its duplicities, right? It hardens the clay, softens the wax, right? But when you the sun, you know who you are and what you can and what you cannot do, right? You know the possibilities, the potential, the power, the force, all of these great things. But that comes with having a knowledge of who you are. So, when you come into the knowledge of who you are, it's cool to be humble. It's important to be humble. Because when you're not humble, you will be humble when you come across somebody that knows more than you do. Right? So you might think, yeah, I'm a master. I got knowledge of self. I know this. I know that. I know, how long it takes for the earth to go around the sun. You know what I'm saying? The distance between earth and the sun, the diameter and all of that, right? But if you can't do nothing with that, what's the purpose of learning it? Right? So it's ultimately important that we are in tune with the foundation of man. And man's foundation is not his flesh. Man's foundation is the thought. And that is infinite. That is the very thing that takes us beyond this fleshy world. Right? It is the very thing that allows us to maintain dominance in this fleshy world. Because those who know the game, right, are often changing the game. Right? Because there was a time where, in order to talk on the phone, you was doing the dial-up. Right? You knew every number from everybody that you went to school with. Everybody on your block, girlfriends and all of that. You knew auntie number, grandma number, you know what I'm saying? Your own number, everybody number, right? But as technology came and started to advance the usage of the phone and telecommunications, now you don't have to remember numbers anymore. Everything is in your phone, right? But this is somebody that's changing the game. And guess what you doing as they change the game? You trying to keep up. Following, spending money to stay updated on the game. Now, instead of just having a regular dial-up, right, you got to get you an iPhone 15, 25, whatever number they at right now, right, just to stay in the game. And guess what? What you got right now in your hand, what I'm filming myself on right now, it's probably about 15, 20 years old in technology. And we got old information rocking it like it's new and it's the best thing ever, fronting and stunting on everybody, talk about, this is what it is when you're an Android user as opposed to a iPhone user, right? And we think we doing something. But the people who changed the game put it in our hands for a fee, and they say, man, listen, only if you knew what we was using right now. Yeah. Are you the ruler or the doula? Are you the ruler or the one that's being ruled? We have to figure that out. Because when we lack the knowledge of the responsibility of the original man, the God man on earth, you know what I mean? We put ourselves in a position for what? Somebody else to tell us who we are. And thus you have the original man being called the Negro, right? They calling him black. They calling him colored, African American, right? And all of those names are names that delude to slavery. So you have somebody that might be like, nah, man, I ain't no Negro, right? I ain't colored, but you calling yourself black, right? But Negro is a color. In Spanish, it means black. You say you're not colored, but you call yourself black. But then you look at your skin. But that's what happens when you the one that's being ruled. When you allow somebody else to rule you and your destiny, right? And they have power over you and they give you a name. They give a name to you that's befitting of the state of mind that you possess. He says, your state of mind is not that of God. It's that of a servant. Right? Because the opposite of freedom, right, is not necessarily what you think it is. Right? Matter of fact, let me rephrase that. The opposite of slavery is not necessarily what you think it is. So you think the opposite of slavery is freedom. But in no reality, the opposite of slavery is God. Being a ruler, the one who determines his own destiny. Right? And you say, how is that so? See, God could change the game. Right? The God mind could change the game, but the slave can't. The God mind is free. His mind is free to do as it wants, when it wants, where it wants, how it wants, right? However it wants. But the slave mind is asking for permission how to think. The slave mind goes to a school, an institution of learning, founded by what? His enemies. His enemies teach him what history is. His enemies teach him what God is, what his religion is.
Like, share, comment, subscribe, hit that notification button. Baja Labantes, Men's Fragrance, Cologne, the movement. We don't beat around the bush, we beat in the bush. DBICbrand.com at DBIC_brand on the gram. You already know.